All right, breaking news. This just into the newsroom. The judge overseeing Trump's classified documents case has dismissed the case as the former president gets ready to appear at the RNC and announce his vice presidential candidate in a highly contested and tumultuous presidential election cycle. Former President Trump is in Milwaukee right now as this news comes down that the classified documents case has been dismissed. He's rewriting his speech after the events of this weekend, and now this big news about this case that had hung over the former president's head, one of several cases. I want to go to NewsNation's Blake Berman with reaction to this. And again, this is just coming into the newsroom. Blake, good morning to you. The ramifications of this and dismissing this big case coming in at a critical time for former President Trump. Yeah,
I mean, obviously, this is a massive story in its own right. Look, let's zoom. This just dropped, so we're going through I'm going through it, as I'm sure you are and your team is as well. So let's just zoom out at 30,000 feet here for a second. There were 4 cases that were brought against Donald Trump, 2 at the state level, 2 at the federal level. We know that Trump will be sentenced at the end of September in the New York case. The Atlanta case is now essentially on hold for various sets of issues there. The Florida documents case has now been dismissed, and the election interference case now has to rework its way through the legal system because of the Supreme Court ruling, essentially. The point here is, Marni, there was a belief when we were talking, if you and I were having this conversation, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 months ago, there were many Democrats, quite frankly, who were hopeful and leaning on the idea of 4 cases coming against Donald Trump before the November election. I don't think this case ever was going to happen before November, but now we definitely know that it won't. And so this is a major win for Donald Trump personally and for his team as he seeks re-election in, my gosh, what has been an absolute surreal few days here involving Donald Trump, Marni.
Right, and curious the timing of it. I mean, given what took place over the last 48 hours, we are now getting ready for the start of the RNC, Blake.
The timing will be questioned here, right? It is at the start of the RNC, which is set to take place in 10 hours or so, give or take, 8 hours or so, give or take, here on the East Coast. Again, this case very likely wasn't going to come, or at least a possible verdict before the election. But, you know, in a time in which the conversation right now in this country, Marni, is how can we lower the temperature? Let's talk about the ideas. Let's talk about the policy differences. And there are real policy differences among the top the 2 men at the top of the ticket. And the temperature absolutely needs to be lowered in this country right now. Then you have a decision like this, and I got to imagine there's going to be some folks in some corners who are going to raise some questions, say this looks suspicious, and go on from there.
I just want to read part of what we're hearing about the dismissal of this case. This, again, from some court documents that we're getting. The superseding indictment dismissed because Special Counsel Smith's appointment violates the Appointments Clause of the United States Constitution. So a little bit more color as to how the judge came to this decision.
Yeah, look, Marni, and you know the law a lot better than I do. So let me ask you, and let's work through this together. If that's what Judge Cannon ruled in Florida, then how does that work for the election interference case in D.C.? How is Jack Smith how is he not allowed in Florida but allowed in D.C.?
I think it opens the door to an overarching question on all the cases involving the former president right now. As I read it, I want to get a lawyer on to get some fine tuning on that, Blake. As the president gets ready to rewrite his speech, no doubt this may be another addendum to what he is planning in his remarks this week.
Yeah, we'll have to see where his speech goes. The president gave an interview, I believe, over the weekend to a couple print outlets. He gave an interview to several print outlets, and in one of those, he suggested that maybe the cases against him now will be dropped.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.